Thanks for joining us. Some of you may be new to the Atlanta Photography Group and not know much about us, so I'm going to give you a little bit of information here. The Atlanta Photography Group was established in 1987. It is an artist-initiated 501c3 nonprofit membership organization providing opportunities and support to the fine art photo community. Okay. APG is generously funded by the Lubo Fund, the City of Atlanta Mayor's Office of Cultural Affairs, the Fulton County Board of Commissioners, the Georgia Council for the Arts through the appropriation of the Georgia General Assembly. Georgia Council for the Arts also receives support from its partner agency, the National Endowment for the Arts. APG is also supported by our individual donors, membership, and volunteers. And our sponsors and our granting agencies are really what makes and our members is really what makes APG happen and our programs happen. And I wanted to tonight really give an extra shout out to the Fulton County Arts and Cultural Commission, because they stepped up and offered an additional grant for some of the arts agencies that they sponsor. We still had to apply for it, but they offered an additional grant for this fall to help all of the arts organizations. So they helped with virtual programming, which was really fantastic. So I'm really excited about that. Tonight we have Frances Thompson selects our virtual opening and juror talk. We're excited to have Frances join us, and we're excited for this exhibition because honestly, it's the first framed exhibition that we've had in the gallery since March. We've had a couple other exhibitions that have been prints on the wall, which has been really fabulous, but this is back to kind of our formal exhibition, and I'm just so excited to have it in the gallery. Okay. And right now I'm going to introduce Frances, okay, and he is here with us. Frances Thompson is our juror, and he is the art program manager of JLL, Jones Lang LaSalle. Over the past decade, he has managed a team responsible for maintaining and expanding a contemporary corporate art collection installed within office buildings throughout North America. During the early part of his role with the collection, he led the curatorial development of its rotating exhibition program, which has grown to between 70 and 80 shows a year. On display within the corporate offices, these exhibitions brought in artwork from nonprofit art organizations, local museums, university art departments, and corporate employees. Frances has worked as assistant gallery director for the Ellipse Art Center in Arlington, Virginia, assistant curator for the Mountain Lake Workshops with director-producer Ray Koss, and as gallery coordinator for the Virginia Tech Armory Gallery. A native of Virginia, he holds a Master of Fine Arts in Arts Administration and a Bachelor of Arts in Studio Art with a concentration in painting and drawing from Virginia Polytech Institute and State University in Blacksburg, Virginia. We are so excited and so very pleased to have Frances jury this exhibition and be with us this evening. Frances, thank you so much for doing this. I know it's a lot of work, and it's a tough thing to choose from some of the great artwork and narrow it down to what we put on the walls. And I'm gonna, Frances, if you might want to say something now, and then I'm going to show people some of the install photos, and then we'll move on to the actual, all of the single images.
Sure. Thank you, Judy. I wanted to thank you, Judy, and also the Atlanta Photography Group for inviting me. All the artists that participated. I know that there was quite a lot of entries. I think there was about over 500 entries into the submissions for the exhibition. So it was quite a challenging exhibition to curate, to select the works, but I thoroughly enjoyed it. So I thank everybody that participated in the show. And to add on to a little bit about my background, the work that I do with our client, we manage our collection that's within the United States and Canada. And just to update a little bit of what's in my bio, we've moved into virtual art events. We call them art experiences. So our galleries remain closed as well. We've been pushed into being more innovative and coming up with new ideas of how to engage with the employees of my client. And it's been really kind of an exciting opportunity. So I'll be learning a lot from this process. I've been very impressed with the events that Atlanta Photography Group has been putting together. So I'm very excited to be here with you today. Thank you so much for having me.
So I have a few install photos so you guys can see a little bit of what the gallery looks like. Okay. And I don't think they're here this evening, but I wanted to give a shout out to Jennifer McKinnon Richmond, as well as Deborah Monroy, who are my volunteers who came yesterday and helped with the installation. They did a fabulous job, and we got it all on the walls, and I think it looks wonderful. Okay.
I am here, Judy. Sorry,
Oh,
I
you
just
are?
joined
Okay.
late. So I'm here. Yeah, I apologize. I'll join with video in a minute, but I just drove from South Carolina, so I'm like getting into a hotel. So
no worries.
I'm here.
Glad you made it. Well, there she is. Thank her for helping us. Okay. And I think I did enough walls that everybody who is here probably can see your artwork on the wall. And like I said, I will be sharing the gallery installation images with you guys, so you will have them for your collection and for your files as well. Okay.
It looks beautiful. Thank you, Judy.
Okay.
I think I'm probably as excited as the artist to be able to visit in Atlanta to see the show in person. I'm here, I'm joining, I don't think I mentioned that earlier, I'm joining from Richmond, Virginia. So I'm not too far away, but I'm excited to get down to Atlanta when things allow and get a chance to see the show and also explore the arts community that's within Atlanta as well.
Yeah. Well, we look forward to seeing you. One of the things that I had mentioned to Francis this morning was I'm planning to have a gallery open house and closing event with a little bit of COVID distancing on there, but we will do our best, and we will have at the end of November, we will have a gallery open house and closing event for people to come by if they haven't already come by before that. And now I'm going to turn it over to Francis, and we're going to go through the artwork. One thing I wanted to let you all know before I kind of jump into that is the artwork this evening is organized alphabetical by first name, just to kind of make it easy to go through. The artwork in the gallery is definitely arranged in a much different arrangement than it is online, but this format seems to work for us to be able to get through the artwork. And now I'm going to turn it over to Francis, and we're going to go through the artwork. One thing I wanted to let you all know before I kind of jump into that is the artwork this evening is organized alphabetical by first name, just to kind of make it easy to go through. The artwork in the gallery is definitely arranged in a much different arrangement than it is online, but this format seems to work for us to be able to get through the artwork. All right, so here we go. And I had sent Francis a list of the artists who had responded to me and told me they would be here. There might be a few more people here. So, and I can't tell who is actually here there's quite a few people in our group this evening. So Francis, it's all yours.
Great. Thank you, Judy. Well, starting off, Amble Park, I really love this piece. It created a sense of mystery for me. I think you can't tell if it's a reflection or if it is double exposure, if it's layered. So I really like the quality of this piece, the mystery behind it. So I really had to have this in. I feel like the show itself, there were a lot of different works that gravitated to landscape, experimental type work, figurative work. You know, we'll dive into a lot of those, but I think the pieces that really drew me into selecting them works like this. I feel like the mystery behind what you're seeing in the photograph, I think is really strong for me. So I really appreciate this piece. Thank you, Annabelle. Next, this is a piece by and Barry. And it really evoked the thought of what children have in their imagination when they play, thinking back of what it is to be a child and having dolls, having toys, and creating sort of a narrative. So to me, it was really kind of taking a look at examining who that individual is, that child, and what she might be thinking with the objects that she has. And then I know there are some other images in this series that include animals in it as well. So I thought that really adds to the piece to create sort of this narrative. I think Anne is with us today.
She is.
So I wonder, oh, great. So I wonder
Hi.
if Anne might comment a little bit, if you're comfortable in doing so, and about what the series of work is.
So this series of work is, it's exploring childhood, and what I'm interested in is people's relationship to to life on the planet besides people, namely animals and plants and trees. And I think children are closer to that because almost I have photographed a lot of animals, particularly primates. And when I photograph these young children, sometimes they're even without language yet. They're just in that world still where they believe everything and they're closer to nature. And I think it's important to try to understand that so we could all be like that.
Thank you, Anne. That's wonderful.
Great. Thanks, Anne.
Thanks. Hi.
I'm a fan of her work, so I'm always great. I'm always happy to see her work in the exhibitions.
Thank you.
I had nothing to do with it. It's all the jurors. So I do not influence anyone. Okay. Armatrice, and Armatrice is here as well. So.
Oh, excellent. Armatrice, this series, I believe, is during trip through Ethiopia. And it really struck me because of the grouping, how she brought together the individuals and photographed it in such a unique perspective. I thought it was really curious. And it really depicts a culture. I'm always interested in, I love to travel myself, so it's been difficult to be at home quite a bit. So I'm always interested in learning about different locations I haven't been to, different cultures. So Armatrice, if you're here and you're comfortable, if you might be able to share a little bit about the series and what you may have experienced in your travels to Ethiopia.
Yes, thank you. This particular picture was taken on a trip to Ethiopia, and these young kids are from the Kerry tribe. And this particular tribe is very well known for their artistic work, the paintings on the bodies. So that is true to their culture, what you're seeing here. And I did a complete series of these, just trying to capture the culture from various tribes that we visited in the Omo Valley area. So I did
Wonderful piece. Thank you.
Great, thank you. And we have two pieces from Beata Sass, and Beata is actually with us also.
Oh, that's great. I really enjoyed looking at all the images in this series. And if I'm correct, the title of the series is Shelter in Place. So it really examines that morning light and being in your place of home is how I portrayed it, how I received it when I read these images. This first one was so striking and strong for me. I feel like it really sticks with me among all the works in the show. Just the way it breaks up different elements in the photograph, and what you think about what might be taking place here as you see it firsthand. And then as I read the artist statement, I found it quite intriguing, the sort of examination or study of morning light. So I think you said, Bedia, if I pronounced your name correctly, you might be here. Do you want to speak a little bit more about this series?
Sure. My name's Beata.
Beata, sorry.
Yeah, so when we started sheltering in place, I was really feeling a loss on many levels. And I'd never photographed inside my home before. I never really felt it was a particular interest to me. But I wanted to continue to photograph. And so I think this time early on, these were taken early on during the pandemic, I began to really notice the light, especially in the morning and in the evening. And I was really surprised at how beautifully the light transformed just ordinary objects, during the course of the day. But this particular image with my husband in the shower, is that juxtaposition of being indoors and then looking on the outside, to that feeling of, yeah, we have to stay indoors, but I'm drawn to be outdoors, and I have a yearning to be outdoors with people. So that's what really struck me with this, is just that juxtaposition of having to be inside yet looking outwards too.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you so much for those comments.
Great.
Wonderful work.
Sure, thank you so much.
Yeah. All right. And then we have Becky Wilkes, and Becky is here also.
Wonderful.
We
This
have a
is
lot
great.
of people
So-
attending, which is fabulous.
This is. So if I'm correct, the series of this work is ditched. And when I saw this, I immediately thought that these might be upcycled, recycled objects used in the composition. So these are objects that I think Becky's been collecting near Eagle Mountain Lake, near Fort Worth, Texas. And this in particular, I like the composition. I like the arrangement. It moved my eye around. And if I'm correct, if I remember correctly, this is quite a large piece. So I'm quite interested to see this in person. So Becky, if you're here, if you might want to talk a little bit more about this series, the objects, and maybe for me, if it's okay for me to be a little bit selfish, I'd be interested in hearing about the arrangement that you decided for these particular objects.
Okay, so I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Yes, you're correct. I collected debris from the lakefront for a year during the drought. And this is what I call knick-knack paddywhacker, because it was the playful objects that I collected. If in some world you could imagine a child playing with it, that's what I put into this piece. And originally this was one of the earlier pieces that I did in this series. And I had it kind of very different than this. And once I put it on the wall, I realized there was a game. And there's no specific game, but it's game-like. So my pattern pieces felt a little bit like Chutes and Ladders and, what's the game where Pac-Man? It wasn't what I was going for, but I was feeling a game-like imagery that from these objects that had escaped the human presence and ended up on my lakefront.
Excellent. Quite a collection of items, I might add. I wonder
Very,
how long it's
very strange.
All right, great. Thanks.
when you
Okay.
collect works, do you perhaps think about what the objects were used for? There must be, as you're collecting things, you must kind of think about that, like what was the life before it reached me here?
Absolutely. I mean, everything had a life beforehand, and how did it journey to get to me? And the long story short of it is the watershed delivers a lot of stuff through the water systems, the ditches, which is why it's called ditched, that when it ends up on the side of the highway, eventually it floods into a lake system.
Interesting.
Mhm.
Thank you, Becky.
Great.
Thank you.
Thanks, Becky. All right, so, and Benjamin Dimmitt, and Benjamin is also here. Looks like a lot of people joined in and didn't tell me they were going to be here, so it's okay.
Wonderful, wonderful. So this series, I believe, is capturing the Florida landscape. So this image in particular is really lush. I love the movement in it. You can see what's happening underneath the water, and it's quite a busy photograph. I really get pulled into what's happening in here. So Benjamin, maybe if you want to give a little bit more texture for an explanation of what the series of photographs is about, if you're here.
I am here. Thank you, Francis. This is an older piece photographed with infrared film about 16 years ago, and it is showing a stretch of a creek just near Springhead. So this is pristine and beautiful and breathtaking, and I stood there for probably an hour or two photographing around this bend in the river, in the creek. And I've been photographing there for a very long time, and photographing the impact of saltwater intrusion on this wetlands on the Gulf Coast of Florida. And this does not look like this anymore because salt water has gotten up into the aquifer and also starting to saturate the swamp muck that everything is growing out of.
Wow. Thank you, Benjamin.
Thanks,
Benjamin.
Excellent piece.
Thank you.
And then we have two from Beth Lilly, and Beth is here also.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, these works are quite large in size, if I'm remembering correctly. This is from Rhythm and Flow series. So the process of this is, I'm curious to learn more about, Beth, if you're okay to reveal a little bit more. The imagery, I think, is constructed from several photographs, if I'm correct, but just the subject matter really pulls you in. It's just so powerful, especially the water piece. There's a lot of movement in it. I feel like it's very powerful work, and the scale of it, I feel like, is going to be quite something to experience when you see in person. So, Beth, if you're okay with it, revealing a few things about your process, I'd be interested in hearing.
Yeah, sure. And thank you for the kind comments. They are individual images. Both of these are made up of 9 different, the vertical is 8, and the water is 9 different images. I wanted to do something with repeating images and to kind of incorporate a rhythm. I'm very fond of music, and I wanted to try and compose something visually that had kind of sympathies with musical composition. So I chose to photograph things that I just absolutely loved and wanted to repeat over and over. With the water, this was taken from the back of a boat, and it's all the bubbles that come up, from a motor in the wake. And then the magnolia leaves, there's tiny holes in them, and it's shot from below. So you have that light streaming out, just, looking up into the canopy. It's a scene that I just love. So I was repeating it over and over, and it wasn't really working till I thought about the forms, arranging the images so that the forms flowed from one frame into another. And I really liked that. I wanted to capture the viewer and then bring them around. This has kind of a figure 8, and your eye follows the lines and goes around and stays in the composition, and it carries you through over time. So there's a linear experience, as if listening to music.
Wow. Thank you, Beth.
You're welcome.
I love that they're lyrical in that way. These are great.
Yeah. Great, thanks. All right, and Bremner. And I believe Bremner is here too. I believe she's here. Yes.
I am.
Excellent. If I'm correct, this is the Hidden Waters series. These are springs that I think they're in the Midwest or the Arizona, if I'm correct. So I felt in the work, it was quite interesting that how things fell into place. There was sort of an examination of nature, environmental awareness, and issues that take place, things that are quite important to the landscape and nature. So I really kind of found that underlying theme with the works that came into us. So I hope you don't mind me mentioning that as we examine your piece. This one I feel like really describes the documentation that you have for these springs. Can you tell us a little bit about the series and the springs, these works?
Sure. Well, the whole project is looking at desert springs, and they're quite threatened ecosystems. And so, like this one's in California. This water was laid down 10,000 years ago, and it's the home of these little tiny fish that are descendants of ancient fish. And yet and you can see it's pretty small, and it's surrounded by extreme dryness, and yet it's a huge tourist spot. And the water itself is fed by an aquifer, which is being threatened because people are moving into the area and they have a lot of high water needs. So it's, I guess, emblematic of the whole series. And I like to try to go out when the skies are a little moody, because I think that adds to the feeling of tension that maybe this is not such a happy moment.
Thank you, Bremner. It's beautiful image. And the research that you've made on these, and I would imagine keeping up with the current status of these locations to be able to go there and document these, photograph them, I think is an important part of your work. So I really appreciate this work. And I'm sure it was a lot of effort for you to coordinate, to travel to all of these locations. I'm sure they're not very easy to find and travel to for some of these as well. So.
Yeah, it is. Some of them take a lot of long walks and a lot of long drives, and then some are just right by the road. It's very hit or miss, but there's a lot of research behind it.
I'm
a little stuck right now. I can't get out like the rest of us.
I hope you can get back out and take more photographs.
Thanks.
It's a wonderful series, wonderful piece. Thank you so much.
Great, thank you. Whoops, sorry. Wrong way. And Carolyn Meltzer, and Carolyn is also with us.
Excellent.
Yes, hello.
Hi.
Hey there, Carolyn. Thank you for joining. I love this piece. What I enjoyed of this show is the work that I do with the corporate collection, the client. I love my work every day. I've been doing it for 17 years. And the work that I do is for the client. It's for the best choices for the collection. But when I curated this show, it really was an opportunity for me to select works that I find quite interesting. So I really appreciate Atlanta Photography Group to allow me to do that. And this one I pulled in. My background, as Judy mentioned, is in painting. So I felt like this painting, just the way the composition was, the color, and the subject, it felt like a painting to me. And this is why I selected it. Something about it I just love. So Carolyn, can you talk a little bit about this piece and the series, if you like?
Thank you so much, Francis. This was from a shoot I did in Cuba last year, which seems like a million years ago now. And I mostly do black and white, but the vibrancy of the colors and the vibrant communities there were incredible. And I was particularly enthralled. I love animals, but as vibrant as the people were, the animals were so much a part of the community. They were not leashed. They didn't have collars most of the time. They came into the towns and then went to their homes in the evening, or they were taken care of by the community. And this dog has a shadow, and they're in the background always, but then they're very much a part of life there. So, and I look at it now and think how different it is now in 2020 to not be able to go out and be part of vibrant communities. And now the dog looks sadder to me. But thanks so much.
Great.
Thank you, Carol.
Great, thanks. Oops, sorry, I'm having an issue with my mouse. There we go. And
So if this series, if I'm correct, is the definition of gutted. So the series is examining abandonment, sort of these vehicles, and then putting them together, juxtapositioning them with these medical models, if you will. So I thought it was curious. It creates sort of thoughts and what's behind the combination of this object here. But I loved how it was really balanced in the way the photograph was made. So thank you, Shiree, for making this piece.
great. And yes, Sherry is not with us today. All right. And then we have Chip, who is my co-host this evening.
Oh, excellent. Thank you for this image, Chip. I love to go hiking. I've been trying to get out and be in nature more. This piece, I felt like it was just framed out so well. I really like the way you focused on the piece and the way it's lighted and the color of the subject. So can you talk a little bit about this work and the series maybe?
Sure. This is from my Noticing series, which is about all the beauty that people miss when they're walking by, hurrying to work or hurrying from place to place. And most of the images in that series are taken outside office buildings or government buildings or something like that. This one's a little different. I jokingly refer to it as my Game of Thrones tribute, because I was on a hike with about 30 hikers, and we took a side trip to go up to the castle in Northern Ireland that Bran was thrown out the window. And walking up the hill, this was growing out of one of the rocks right there. And everybody in front of me walked past it, and they were turning around and yelling at me that I needed to hurry up. What was I looking at? Why was I going slow? So in some ways, it's the perfect example of my series.
Excellent. It's such an unusual type of plant. It's quite curious. Beautiful piece. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Chip. And Chris Anderson, and Chris is here too. Okay.
Excellent. I think this really dramatic shot. I love the colors that are coming in with the time of day that takes place here against the color of the water and the ice. And if I'm correct, this image is from Greenland. I can't see the titles here, but I think that's correct. Can you talk a little bit about this series and maybe how your travels to these locations, what you're depicting?
Yeah, sure.
Right piece.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, thank you. This was from Greenland. It's Eastern Greenland in a fjord inside the Arctic Circle. Eastern Greenland is the less populated side of it. First, I'd flown over Greenland in a DC-7 when I was a child and just amazed by its size, and I'd always wanted to return there. A couple of years before this, I spent some time in Iceland, but still wanted to go back to Greenland because it was so unpopulated. It's a huge country with 56,000 people, and only about 4,000 are on the east side. And this particular one, we were in 8 days on a 80-foot schooner that was 100 years old, made a 450-mile journey with a few photographers. And typically we go from place to place, and then we go on zodiacs, and we go into land, and we would do early morning, late evening hikes and photographs. And then in between, most people, we just go back inside and warm up and get coffee and warm cooked bread and whatnot. And then this was outside, and in the morning time, I remember this from living up in Alaska, up in the mountains. You have a very short period of time where you get what's called alpenglow, as the sun in the opposite horizon starts to rise, but it's very short lived. And so this was bouncing around, shot with a long lens, bouncing around out on the boat as we're going from one location to another. And it's just for only a few moments do you catch that light, and with that long lens was be able to take some of the foreground image of the submerged icebergs and catch an iceberg in the background. So I was pretty happy to have been lucky enough to capture this.
Impressive shot that you capture everything so crisp, going far back in the distance and then up close to the wave. Really nice piece. I enjoy this.
Thank you.
Great. Thanks. And we have Christopher Jordan. Okay.
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh, good. Okay.
Hey, Christopher. I love this is a cyanotype, if I'm correct. So I've I'm familiar with the process of cyanotypes, but I'm quite interested to hear a little bit about how you created this, if there are objects that you placed on it, and then the layering. This is very curious process and image. Thank you, Christopher, for submitting this. Can you share a little bit more?
Yeah, this was very much a pandemic project where I was exploring wet cyanotype, which is where liquids are applied to the cyanotype during exposure. So it results in these very painterly-like markings. And so these are multiple exposure cyanotypes where I'm using botanicals, spices like turmeric and paprika, as well as water to create these very painterly-like marks. But then I'm using the shapes, the elemental shapes, the triangle, circle, and square to kind of be like an anchor point for all that fluidity. And so it's sort of like, the piece is called Rhythm Changes, which of course refers to jazz and how there's improvisation within some kind of a structure of chords and music. And so it's this kind of almost like metaphysical tension between order and chaos that I was interested in exploring.
Well, this is a great piece. Thank you, Christopher. I love the chance operation. It sounds like there might be a part of the process too.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely. It's entirely unpredictable. You never know what's going to happen. So there are probably 50 of these, and then maybe 10 of them work pretty well. So highly experimental.
Great. All right, thank you. And then we have Cindy Connitz, I believe it's how you say her name. And Cindy is here, and she has 3 in the exhibition.
Yes, the series, if I have it right, that is This Room Will Survive Me to the Room I Am Already a Ghost. So I love that sense of a presence in a space that is beyond, sort of the figures that we know. So I thought that the titles add something else to it. So the way you've controlled the light, I think, way you capture the figures. Light is a very important factor of that, but then light is another element for some of these other photographs, very important on its own. This first one was very curious because you can see the reflection. I don't know if you all can see it to the right, to the left, and to the top of the piece. You can also see the reflection. So I love that I was able to examine different elements and kind of move around the photograph to see what's happening here. So quite interesting. So Cindy, I think, are you here? Judy, did you say?
Yes, I am.
Oh, great. Can you talk a little bit more about this here? I would really love to learn more.
Yeah, well, so the title is shortened now. It's just This Room Will Survive Me. So upon terminating psychoanalysis a little over a year ago, I began photographing myself with an obsolete professional instant camera and expired instant film. And some 500 images later, I discovered something I didn't know at the beginning, that I was doing, that I had been recording an internal search for the transformative, the very creative analytic room that once held a relationship and this transformative process. So, so here I see myself as a translucent vessel, a ghost of previous selves. But I had no idea I was doing this when I started out. I just saw it.
Thank you for that. These are wonderful. The idea of humans having memory and then space having its memory, its history, really comes to mind when I see these images. I feel like they're really strong. It's like a lot of these are very different. They relate well in the series, but I feel like they're really powerful images on their own as well. So thank you for including these into the exhibition.
Thank you so much. I will say that when I was shooting them, there was just two factors alone, which was direct light through my body, just direct light shooting, through my body, and long exposures. That's all. So it was time and space. And I really appreciate your thoughts. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Cindy.
Thanks, Cindy. Okay. And then we have Colin, Colin's work, and Colin is not here from where I can tell.
This is a great piece. The title of the series, I believe, is Accidental Dioramas. And when I saw this, it made me think right away of the office space. This is probably familiar to a lot of us. We're working home from right now, so I feel like it's quite timely. And it makes me think, I haven't been back in the office. Our offices are closed at least through the end of the year. So it made me stop and think, which I didn't prior to seeing this, what will the workspace be when we return back into the space? And the figure, how they're sort of contemplating, what are they thinking about? What is their interaction? It almost seems like they're preparing for something, thinking about something, they're not engaged. So this photo sort of led me to a lot of different experiences, I think. So I was quite curious about it. It's a familiar place, but then there's the emotion that, and the figure and their interaction that's taking place made me sort of think further. So I appreciate this work. It's a great piece.
Great. And then we have Corinne Adams, and Corinne is here, and Corinne has two pieces in the show.
So this series, Spirit of Place, if I'm correct, and this one and the other, I love them both. I felt like I needed to have an example of the work where it's sort of the mirror image, and it creates this figure, this object or something else from nature. And then this where it's just the branches that have the shadow, and almost looks like it's mirror image as well. What really struck me, it really stuck with me. The imagery is striking. I feel like it almost like these make a shape that's floating in space in a way. So in a way, it's almost meditative. I studied this quite a bit, this image in particular. So Corinne, if you'd like to speak more, I would love to hear more about the series and these works.
Thank you. I'm sorry I'm in the dark. I didn't prepare for video. I haven't traditionally been a nature photographer, but the pandemic has definitely drawn me into nature. And I've lived much of the year at the beach on the Florida Panhandle, and also in the woods around my house in Atlanta. But we're living in a time that is so ephemeral, as time always is, but we're more aware of it now. So I'm really interested in the ephemeral moments in nature, like the first piece with the shadows on the beach. And then I also create moments in nature, like the second piece, where I found vines and I wove them together and created a composition on the beach. And I love it that one day I'm there and I photograph it. The next day when I come back, it's gone, or it's totally changed. And sometimes I add on to it or take away. So it's a wonderful interactive relationship. And I also am very interested in mindfulness and meditation, and that is an important part of the work and the process.
Wow. Thank you, Corinne. I really appreciate that. I love to see more of your work. These are great pieces and quite unique for me. I feel like I haven't seen work like this where from nature, that comes from nature. So I feel like it's very unique. I feel like
thank you.
Really great
I'm
work.
always trying to find a fine line of not being too clever, finding something that feels real and not like a plaything, because it feels very much that way for me when I'm there.
Great. Thank you. And then we have David Clifton Strawn, and David is here somewhere.
I'm here.
There you are.
Excellent. I love this work. I feel like, kind of commenting us working from home, sort of social distancing. I felt like this and the series of work, the dancers that are in it just feel so inviting. I miss that interaction that we can have in person. And I feel like just the livelihood of the image and the person just seems so inviting and lively, wonderful image. So I feel like it kind of my choice in selecting it was in that purpose. But I'd like to hear more about this series and these works.
Okay, so thank you for the comments. And the series is titled "Simple, Complex, Obvious, and Profound." And it's a very personal portrait project for me, in that I've had a long, about 20-year absence from both Atlanta and from the artistic community. And so a little over a year ago, I put out kind of a call amongst my friends and on various networks saying, I'm interested in meeting other artists in the Atlanta area, and I would like to take your portrait, regardless of what your particular artistic discipline is. I'm interested in meeting a wide range of people. And so the photographs from this series have been a bit of a visual diary of the people that I've been meeting and getting to know, the vast majority of them who have become friends, and I've created a social network with the people that I've been photographing. Lola Solel, who's photographed here, this was actually the second time that she and I met and worked together. Right before COVID hit, I ran into Lola at one of her performances, and she had this costume on, and I asked her if she would come to the studio and let me photograph her in it. And so I think about 4 or 5 months later, we finally got the opportunity through with social distancing to get her back into the studio and photograph. But for the entire series, I chose, I was very personal, the kind of chiaroscuro lighting and way that the Renaissance painters would present people. I love that kind of lighting because of the sort of intimacy and connection it makes with the subject. And I also grew up on a steady diet of celebrity portraiture in fashion magazines as I was growing up. And so there was a certain sensibility of the way that when you looked at those pictures in the magazines, you felt like you knew the celebrity, you felt like you knew the person in the photograph, you connected with them. And I wanted all of the images in this series for the viewer to be able to say, I feel like I know this person, I'm connecting with this person somehow. It's still a project that's in the works. I'm still photographing people. So this is an ongoing series.
It's an excellent piece, really well done. I know my comments were sort of my reaction to the piece, but I feel like it's just strongly taken. I really love the photograph. So thank you, David, for the comments.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And then this is by Eric Smith, and I do not think Eric has joined us this evening.
Yeah, this image, the memorial was curious to me. I was not familiar to it, so as I started to examine a little bit more about what this location is. So I just found the sculptural aspect of the memorial quite interesting, and the way he portrayed the colors and captured it. So it's a great piece.
Yeah.
Thank you, Eric.
It is, and I just want to jump in here. If you haven't been to visit this memorial, it's very moving. It's very powerful, and it's I don't know. It's kind of gut wrenching as well, but it's a very powerful memorial, and it's located in Montgomery, Alabama.
Thank you, Judy.
Okay, Angelica. I believe Erica is here. Yes, she is.
Erica, this is great. So this, if I'm correct, this is Kaleidoscopic Nature, the name of the series. And you use prisms, crystals to take the image. I love the color. Obviously, that's going to be the strong element in the piece. But I'm curious of the process. Can you share a little bit how you take the photograph?
Yes, it's really trial and error. Usually how I do it is I kind of hold it up like this and I kind of just play around. I usually just hold two objects in front of me and I just move it around the camera shutter and I just take several images until I come up with ones I like. So it's a lot of experimentation.
That's great. That's fun.
Great. It really is a fun image. Thanks, Erica. And then we have Frank first, and Frank is here also.
Yes, the composition, how the sky reflects there, and then the reeds or whatever the vegetation is that's coming out from the water. I felt like is quite interesting, it's quite lyrical, and in a way a little kind of disorienting. I loved how it played so much with the reflection of what your understanding is of where the reflection starts and where it ends. So if you're Frank, if you're here, can you talk a little bit about this piece in the series?
Well, he was here. Frank, you're here. I don't hear you.
I'm sorry, was I muted?
You might have been. All right.
Okay. Well, I just told you everything about it.
Thanks so much. Moving on. No, go ahead.
Apologize for that. I didn't submit this as a series, but it is part of a series of photographs I've taken of the streams and rivers of Georgia, particularly the Chattahoochee and the Flint River. But this is up on the Tugaloo, which is on the border between Georgia and South Carolina. And I'm particularly interested in trying to capture some more abstract images of these places that give me a timeless, really a spiritual feeling. And I'd driven by the spot on the river a few times and I knew there was something there, but I had to go back and back many times to just get the right timing with the light and the clouds and the time of day. And finally, on this day, it came together. So a lot of gas burned and a lot of images taken to end up with this one that finally got it right.
Mm-hmm.
Wonderful piece. Thank you, Frank.
Beautiful. Thank you, Frank.
Thank you.
Okay, and then we have Frank Marshall, and I do not believe I don't see Frank, the other Frank here.
This series is quite interesting to me. I love the juxtaposition between nature and these hotels.
Oh, you are here.
Oh, that's great.
All right, thank you.
Intriguing image. I feel like these old trees also with this old hotel as well. That can you talk a little bit about the series and the work? It's great image.
Well, the series is from the book, my first book, I See Nothing. And it's my travels from like upstate New York all the way to Texas. And, you know, the sad state of America, really. And, you know, this is kind of just one of them of, you know, high expectations, your hotel, the trees that have outgrown, you know, the place that, you know, obviously is abandoned and is no more. And, you know, in context to the rest of the photographs, you know, it just has that, you know, kind of where is America going, and have we kind of neglected, you know, have we neglected ourselves and everything that does happen? Mm-hmm. You know, how long is something going to last? How long are we just going to let it decay? You know, how long are we going to ignore it? Type of scenario.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Frank. Yeah, I find these kind of haunting in a way too. They just how the trees are trying, almost like they're trying to stay up in this in the area that the hotel is in, and so the image to me just really sticks. It's really balanced. I love the image. So really appreciate your comments. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you. I mean, in the in the preference of the book, this was one of the images that was talked about in depth, kind of as you're saying, of the future to, you know, the whole existence of, at one point it had optimism and the trees are just kind of barely hanging on.
Great. Thank you, Frank.
Oh, well, thank you. I appreciate it. And, you know, thanks for being in the show. I appreciate it. First time.
Oh, wonderful. Great to have you.
No, I mean, again, thank you. And thank you, Francis.
Okay. All right. And then we have Gail Mitchell, and Gail is not with us. She is traveling somewhere in upstate New York.
I love this, just the lighting of it and the delicate nature of it, the color that comes through and the dark background. It struck out to me. So I love the piece. So thank you, Gail, for submitting this piece.
Wonderful. And then we have two from Jennifer Mckinnon, and Jennifer is here, and she was one of my installation volunteers.
Well, so I read this art statement and it drew me even further. I looked at the images first and I said, these are quite curious images. They're abstract in nature. And then when I read your statement of how you take these images, then I was intrigued further, the reflection. Can you talk a little bit and share how you take these images?
I can't. Can you hear me? Sorry.
Yes.
I apologize in advance. I'm in a parking lot getting dinner, so it's super exciting. I know. I like to paint with dumpsters. So what I do is I take close-up photos of dumpsters, and then and in this particular series, it's the first time I've tried it. But what I did is I layered multiple images of dumpsters to create the textures and colors that I found in landscapes. So I think it was sort of my escape during COVID, and sort of experimenting with what I could do using dumpsters. So that's what I did.
Really quite interesting. And I feel that I can't see the titles right now, but if I recall correctly, this is like Miami Beach. It really,
right. And sorry.
It really captured, like it really kind of captured the landscape. You feel once you see the title, then you feel like there's a connection there then with the landscape itself. So go ahead. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
I apologize. I was going to say that it is part of a series that I'm working on. It's almost complete, but it's called Nature's Petrified Cities. And then Miami Beach. And then this is Death Valley is the one with the rocky floor. And so I've basically taken landscapes from across the country, and then I'm piecing them together to create a series.
How wonderful those dumpsters were right in just the right place for the reflection. I love how you have the cuts and the carves. You can see sort of the surface quality of that, in the container, and then you really can see still the landscape in the distance. So thank you. These are quite intriguing, curious images.
Thank you. I really appreciate it.
Great. Thanks, Jennifer.
No problem.
Okay. All right. And then we have Jeremy. I believe it's Janice. And Jeremy, I think, is here.
It's great. Well, this, it really made me think of being in nature again.
Nope,
so I've been in my house, I think, like every single day, with the majority of the time, 95% of the time since COVID started. And I try to get outdoors as much as possible. I love being outside. And when I travel in nature, my favorite time to be outside is in the evening. I love to see and experience what's happening in the wilderness, what's happening in nature. So it's almost like a spiritual experience for me to be outside. And this is where it reminded me of those times. And I love how it captured so much detail in the distance there. You can see the galaxy. So can you share a little bit about this image in your work?
Yeah, so this year is kind of crazy. It's been all about isolation, and I've been able to actually watch my photography kind of like go toward isolation and grow from that. My piece in the Atlanta airport with APG right now is a storm cell out on the eastern plains of Colorado. This was actually down in the southeastern side of Utah, which we went down there because the smoke in Colorado was so bad from our wildfires. So we went down there, and I actually didn't even start doing astro. I took astro once 3 years ago, didn't dig it. And then this year with isolation, it was kind of like, okay, let's try it again, see where it goes. And this was just driving around the Valley of the Gods in southeastern Utah. And I wanted something that contrasted the beauty of the mountains in the background. So you can see kind of on the right-hand side, that's where there's a bunch of different monuments that are right there. But I also wanted to find something that contrasted that. So I found this tree, and I knew right away that was what I wanted to shoot. And all my nature photography actually comes from my days of depression and anxiety. And so now I try to kind of incorporate being a light in the darkness or finding light in the darkness in some way, shape, or form. So that was kind of where all those worlds melded for me. And it worked out this year with COVID and kind of pushing me toward isolation a little bit more.
Thank you for sharing, Jeremy's wonderful piece.
Thanks, Jeremy.
Thank
Great
you.
to have you participate. You've been hitting some home runs with the last few.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate you guys.
Yeah, great. Thanks. And then we have Jibao Sun, who could also be known as Bonnie. So I don't think she has joined us. If she has, I don't see her.
Yeah, this piece, the subject matter was really curious to me, just the vegetation, the plant itself, and then the presentation. When I went through the photographs, I've always was very looking very closely to the presentation. Obviously would not be able to see pieces framed, so I'm quite curious to see everything framed in this one, certainly especially with how the edges were treated. So this is beautiful image, gorgeous image. So thank you so much for participating and submitting this.
And I believe this is a platinum print. Somehow I'm missing the title, the caption on this, but I believe this is an original platinum print as well, or a palladium, or both. So, and then we have John Howe, who is here also.
This for my comments earlier of traveling. This is just so inviting. You know, just the technical aspect of it, the way you treat the light and the darks in it, the midtones. I just really find like the range in it is just so well done, so intriguing, so beautiful. It really pulls you in, and those lines, the movement of where the trees are, the bridge, and then the rest of the path. I just really was sort of entranced by a lot of elements that are happening in this piece. Can you share a little bit more about this work?
Oh yeah, I'd be happy to. Thank you, Francis, for including it in the show, and really appreciate it. I moved here from California, so a lot of my inspiration came from Ansel Adams and Edward Weston and John Muir, one of my heroes. So studied the zone system and in terms of exposure. And when I moved here to Georgia, I took a lot of that knowledge up into the mountains and started doing black and white up there. And there's an incredible amount of wilderness up there that being protected, and hope it continues to be protected in the future. And I started out documenting one of those areas, the Raven Cliffs Wilderness up there in North Georgia. And it's evolved into a portfolio that is continuing to grow. I've also captured a bit of spiritual energy on film as well, which people might have seen in some of the other shows. I've submitted some pieces with what can only be called spiritual energy on the film negatives. So that's basically what this whole portfolio is about. And again, thanks for including this image. I really enjoy going up there and photographing, and it's, I think, important to protect the wilderness areas.
I agree. Thank you, John. It's a really strong image.
Thank you. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, John. And then we have Kerry Walter. And Kerry is here.
Oh, great. Kerry, I love that it's sort of spontaneous image, but at the same time, it feels like it has a quiet nature to it. So can you share a little bit more about it? I love how just how the elements for the subjects, how they lined up here, and the space that's in the photograph. I just found it really drew me, and I just find it just this contemplative, quiet, beautiful piece. Can you share a little bit more?
Yeah. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, great. This piece is really special to me because I took it in London, in the neighborhood where my grandmother grew up, and I travel a lot and photograph and incorporate animals and a sense of memory and reflection from my childhood. And this is a memory that I had spending time with my grandmother in the park and feeding the birds and the pigeons when they had them in Trafalgar Square, which they don't anymore. They actually have hawks that take care of the pigeons now. So this was just a really quiet moment for me and a reflection on my childhood memories of spending time with my grandmother in London.
It's beautiful. Thank you for sharing that, Kerry.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kerry. And then we have 2 images by Kathleen, Tunnel Handle. And Kathleen is here.
Oh, great. So if I'm correct, the title of the series is Where the Heart Is. So that for these 2 images, I love this one, to just the perspective, it really pulls you all the way down. There's so much you can see, but the color and the light in these really drew me in. And this one in particular, just the trees in front of you and how the mobile homes were arranged and how the shadows sort of envelop you. They're touching you, they're coming towards you. You see the reflection. I felt like there's just so much happening in this piece. In a way, it's sort of complex, but beautiful. So can you share some more about these works in this series?
Sure, thank you, Francis. Both these pieces are from a project I didn't realize I was starting in 2017. Initially, I was drawn to mobile home communities just because of how much personality I was seeing outside of people's homes, and just how much it contrasted with this sort of media-induced stereotype of what mobile home communities look like. And as I talked to more and more people as I photographed, I realized there was just a lot more here, sort of represents the American dream, people having a home, even if it's smaller than many people think of as the ideal. And the first image that, as you'd mentioned, with the trees in front, you can see that people think of mobile homes as something people can just pick up and move, but obviously that's not really something that's that feasible. And it's, as I've gotten more involved in the project and done research and spoken to different urban planners and housing advocates and what have you, I've realized how vulnerable these communities are. And I really wanted to both archive this really important part of American vernacular architecture and also use my images in the service of housing advocacy, because mobile home communities are the largest non-subsidized housing form in the United States, and they're increasingly vulnerable to equity investors. So this sort of both represents a kind of beautiful nostalgic image, as well as the fact that these are people's homes and the land is usually leased. And when the fees are increased to a point where people can't afford to stay, they really end up abandoning their homes, and it's an increasing issue.
Really strong work. Thank you, Kathleen.
Great. Thanks, Kathleen.
Thank you.
And we have Kristen Anderson, who is here also. Yes, Chris is here.
I am. I'm trying to figure out. Can you see me?
Yes.
Okay, cool. First I just wanted to say it's kind of cool. Beth, Lily, and I both studied with John McWilliams at Georgia State, so it's great to see Beth again after and we both had acted in APG for a while. So yeah, this was a series actually that I just started during COVID, and so it's kind of I'm still exploring it. I'm combining multiple images, and I'm kind of gravitating toward clouds. And I've heard a couple people mention a spiritual practice, and that's also kind of I've kind of deep into spiritual practice, and usually I do portraiture, so this is very different from me. So yeah, I'm not sure what it means yet, but it's just kind of something I'm starting on and exploring. I'm in Chicago now, but I hope to maybe make it to Atlanta for the closing show.
That'd be great.
Yeah. And appreciate the work you guys do.
Thank you.
Awesome. Like I said, I've been active was active in Atlanta for many years and really appreciate you guys. And also Francis, appreciate you. Thank you.
Certainly. Yeah, I love the work. I was curious about the process for this particular image. It just kind of intrigued me. So I was curious if you could share a little bit more about this, making this one in particular.
Yeah, I'm basically combining things in different ways, and I'm doing it with a number of images. I call it apotheosis. That's kind of my working title. So I'm combining a number of images, kind of using different computer algorithms. So like different kind of macros, I guess you would call it. Also I used to do this with Holga, where I would overlap. So it's kind of a different take on that. For some reason, I'm drawn to combining stuff now. So this is a number of images just combined with telephone, the telephone wires in there. And yeah, just like I said, I feel it relates to kind of spiritual progress I've been making. And so I just kind of let it evolve. That's all I can say about it at this point.
No, thank you. It's very, very curious image. So I appreciate the context, the detail in it.
Great.
Cool. Thank you.
Thanks, Chris.
Yep.
And then we have Laura Inman. I thought there was two, but there's only one. So we have Laura Inman. And I don't think Laura is with us this evening.
The light in it I thought was quite interesting, just how the treatment of it, the objects that are in it. I think another piece that's sort of contemplative, that's quiet, that is controlling the light. So for the way that it has the element on the right side, and then in the distance you can see a little bit what's happening there. I just felt like it's almost painterly in a way as well. So I love this piece, the quiet nature of it, and the light play, that soft color. It's a great piece. So thank you, Laura.
Great. And then we have Lawrence Russ, and Lawrence is not here either. So
the subject matter was curious here. The detail of this is quite exquisite, but the subject matter, I think the title of this is the Pope's Library, I believe. So I'm quite curious. I hope I can reach out and learn a little bit more about where he took this, where the artist took this piece.
Yeah.
But I just the composition of it too is interesting. Objects that you may not that you know what it is, a desk, but they might not be ordinary objects that you see. So I was quite curious about the context of where this is, the place and things, and the light in it's well done. So thank you, Lawrence, for participating in the show.
And then Leslie Jean Bart, who is here. Yes, Leslie is here.
Oh, great. The movement in this, obviously, this is really what takes you. But I like that chance that happens with taking this photograph. You can see what, light and color kind of intertwine in itself in the movement. So maybe, can you talk a little bit more about this series of work, this piece, and how you create the works?
This image is part of a series, an ongoing series. I started after my mother passed away last February. I've been her guardian and for the last 15 years. So I've been thinking a lot about time. What does it mean? So it's a combination of time and timing. It was done purely by moving the camera in a sense. Again, it's timing with the people moving, and a combination of rock as well to get that done. Yeah, and it worked. I'm not sure what else I could say more about it.
Yeah, I hope to see that. I'm looking forward to seeing this in person. This is a great piece.
Thank you. And thanks for putting it in there. I appreciate it very much.
Great, thanks, Leslie.
Thank you.
Okay. And then sorry, I skipped one. We have Marcela Vershore, and Marcela is here.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, I love this series of work, this sort of essays of work of being alone, if I'm remembering correctly from the order statement, sort of the time that we have that we're distanced, and it really kind of portrayed that. But this in particular, I found was curious. It's almost like a self-portrait, if it is a reflection of yourself, and thinking about where you are and how you're distanced and being alone. And I feel like the elements really portray that, but the framing of the figure and the elements in it, I find quite intriguing. Can you share a little bit more?
Sure, thank you. Yes, this is the series of Lonely at the Hotel, and this is the last one. And what I like to show with my pictures is that I like the high contrast, I like the dark, I like the available light. So I would like to consider myself like a storyteller, and at the end, the viewer can decide what the end of the story is. So this is one of the pieces that I like, and I'm very grateful that you select this one.
Thank you for that. Thank you for entering the show. I really think it's a strong piece, and I feel like it's quite timely. It's a great image.
Yeah, I mean, I like endless, like the candid moments, like black and white. I take my Leica and I like, like to go in, I don't know, I like to go deep into emotions, like leave it to some type of mystery. Mm-hmm. So that's what I like in my pictures. At least what I want to try to show.
Great.
Thank you, Marcela.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry. And then Marjorie Jordan's piece. And Marjorie is here also.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, wonderful. Marjorie, I love the imagery in this, sort of the taking images and placing them together. But there's almost like there's a ritual that's happening or contemplation that's happening in the action that you're capturing in it too, with the hands and the candle. So it made me think a little bit about that as well. So can you share some more about what the imagery is here?
Yeah, so can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. This is from a series, all of the notion behind it is Sacred Planet. And I am actually still use film. I've never learned digital photography. So what I'm doing with this series is actually running the film through my camera 3 times. And I have a very good idea of what I'm trying to get, but each image is different from that. So I start out and the way I light the various elements, but then they combine in ways that I don't know what's going to happen. So this image is called Earth Vigil. So it's sort of this notion of really seeing our planet as sacred and having a more humble attitude towards all that we have here, rather than, what's happened with all of our development and using the planet, but sort of just the opposite of that, sort of the way that when we were indigenous people all over the world, and the indigenous still have this view of the planet being sacred. So that's what I'm trying to get.
Beautiful image. Thank you for sharing that.
Great,
Thank you. Thank you for including me.
And then we have Micah Cash, and Micah is not here.
This is a great image. I feel just the composition, what you're capturing here, the light, I feel like it's just so well done. The reflection, there's things to see up close in the distance, the light. I feel like it's just so sharply done. This photograph really captured me, really stuck out for me. And I knew right away, I felt like this is a piece that would be iconic for me. So sort of in this exhibition. So it's really quite well done. Thank you, Micah, for participating and having the piece in the show.
And I believe this is from Micah's series on Waffle House views. Oh, sorry. And Michael Reese is with us.
Oh, great. Michael, so I've never heard of an automobile being used as a pencil, so I'm quite curious to ask you a little bit about how the marks were made in, I guess, the parking lot. But this, I love this. I've been tying a lot of the work to paintings, and one of the artists that I love really dearly, his work, Cy Twombly. I really thought of his work when I saw this image and your other images. So this one for me, I selected it because the elements in the road, the markings, and then the drawing by the automobile, they merge together. It almost feels like it's a painting, and there's chants happening in it. But to know that it's a photograph intrigues me. So this is quite curious. Can you share some more information?
Yes. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. I was drawn to this because it was very painterly, but I was actually in just walking around this parking lot, really photographing something else. And I began to see these marks underneath me, and I'm like, well, these are super interesting. And they remind me of, abstract drawing. And I was talking to someone from the area, and they were telling me that in this particular parking lot, a lot of kids come there and burn out their cars. They do burnouts and drifting, and I was like, it's fascinating. And so I began to take still images with my camera, and she was telling me that it was unique, or the burnout or the car enthusiasts were drawn to this particular parking lot because it was big enough, and it didn't have the particular wheel stops in a parking lot that prevents a car from rolling. And so and this is, of course, it's a very old parking lot. You can see that it's kind of decaying, and it's been drawn over. And so after she told me that, I began to drive around in Atlanta and greater Atlanta looking for large parking lots without wheel stops. And every single one that I found, you would see these, these trace remainings of these burnouts. And if you live in Atlanta proper, you can hear, sometimes I live in Grant Park, and so I can hear some of the burnouts. And this is a big thing with the city. The APD is trying to shut these illegal burnouts down because it's super dangerous, because as they're burning out, like if you see in the center of the image, there's usually someone in that center filming these cars just like going around these structures. And so it is super dangerous. But after I began to photograph them with the camera, I am also a drone photographer. So I thought it would look so much more fascinating from the air, from a bird's eye view. And that transformed the work, because I have still images from my still camera, but looking at it from above, it does transform the work. And so I almost feel like an archaeologist, kind of. It's like this abstract calligraphy or cave paintings, in the sense of what once was. And I'm continuing the work and looking for more and more parking lots with these trace remainings of these burnouts.
Thank you, Mike. I really enjoyed the series. I'm looking forward to seeing more of these.
Yeah.
So greatly appreciate your participation. Very great. Very, very strong piece.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Michael.
Thank you.
And wait, did I miss one? No. Then we have Marty Cope. And Marty is here, I believe.
Oh, great. I love the portrayal, the subject in this, and the light that's coming from above, the treatment of how you took this photograph and the subject matter. Earlier, we're talking about sort of contemplating, taking a look at things that you might miss on your everyday walk. And I'm always looking for things on my hikes for the unusual in nature. That's what kind of draws me. And sometimes it's things that are decaying in the forest or in the trail, etc. So I examine these types of things. So this related to me in that sense. The photograph itself, I think, is quite technically, it's a really strong image, the composition, etc. But I thought I'd just share that if that's okay. Can you talk a little bit more about this piece?
Well, you kind of hit the nail on the head. You know, what drew me to it was the light on the ferns. And I do nature a lot, and I like to look for the things that people might walk right past and not see. And the ferns are just so beautiful. They remind me of lace. And this was taken in June, and it was my first outing after being at home since March. So I was really going slow when I was doing this hike in North Georgia.
Well done. Beautiful
Oh, sorry.
photograph.
Thanks for including me.
Thanks, Marty. And then we have this image from Nathan Dean, and Nathan went away and Nathan came back. So Nathan is here.
I'm here.
Oh, that's great. So I read your artist statement again. The image, the person and their expression, it just grabs you. It's beautiful work, and the detail in it. I think it's really capturing. But I remember in your statement that that you sometimes don't try to have a plot or a narrative in the work. And I thought that was quite interesting. I wanted to ask you that question and then see if you can share a little bit more about this image and some more with us.
Yeah, I really think of my work standing each picture on its own and not needing a series to convey the emotion, sort of like a sonnet instead of a novel. And so each picture, I mean, I can make a series of photos that go together, but I really work on making single images that intrigue and draw you in. This lady was part of a folk dance group that I saw in a square in, I guess it was a small town in China. It was only 10 or 12 million instead of 15 or 20. And her face drew me because I couldn't figure, I think she was happy to be in the group, and yet she was a little bit timid and afraid of performing. But a lot of people have told me that this picture, she looks frightened, and others have told me she looks really intrigued and happy. So I called it Enigma because I can't figure out what she's really feeling.
That's excellent. Thank you for sharing that. Great image.
Thank you.
Great, thanks, Nathan. And then we have this from Nick Prince, and Nick is not here.
This is quite a curious image, sort of the process. It seemed very experimental. So when I see the image, I'm always very curious to see how the photographer made the piece. So I love that sort of painterly approach to the work, not knowing exactly what it is that I'm looking at either. I like that mystery behind it. And so then it's just the elements of color, the shapes. So I really love this piece. Thank you, Nick, for participating in the exhibition.
All right. Okay. So next we have Nina, and I do not believe Nina has joined us either. Unless she's.
Yeah, this I loved all the work in this, but this one is sort of a window inside of a space inside of a space for me. So I was kind of intrigued with the shapes, I think, in it. I just kept examining the window and then this square space inside of the bedroom, and what is this space? So and it's just a curious image to me, and I think well done. So thank you so much, Nina, for participating in the exhibition.
All right, and then we have Peter, and I didn't see Peter join us either.
Yeah, I love this image. I thought it was quite curious. So that's sort of the same image, but looking at how is our community changed with where we are now with COVID? So the practices that we have to do, how does that change how things are sort of portrayed? Do we look at things differently? So it kind of brought that thought to mind, sort of directly, seeing the same image, but then, what is it with us wearing our masks in the area? So I like that sort of capturing of the time period here and portraying it. So thank you very much, Peter, for participating in the exhibition.
And then we have Polly, and Polly is here.
Oh, great. So I think I remember this might be the series Unearthed series, but the subject was really curious to me. And then the cyanotype, the process up. So I wanted to learn more about it. It's beautiful, wonderful image. I love the colors that are captured in this. So I think it's really well done. Knowing the process for cyanotype, I feel like this is probably very difficult to get to this image. So beautiful work. Can you share some more, Polly?
Well, I'm predominantly a portrait photographer. So when COVID hit, I had no one really to photograph. So I started working with my plants, and I love gardening and I love plants, and I tend to take their portrait by taking them out of their pots and repotting them. And so I photograph them basically on a black background and create digital negative. And then to make the cyanotype reminded me a lot of when I used to work in the darkroom. It slowed me down, like I felt was happening during COVID, slowing of the process, the thinking about things that were in your home, things that were precious to you that weren't necessarily out in the world. So it was a little bit meditative for me, I guess.
Yeah. Thank you for that beautiful image.
Thank you.
Hold on, I'm coming.
No problem. I hope I'm not going too quickly, Judy.
No, you're fine. I just realized that I'm going to bring an image over here because this one did not get in my slideshow. And this is by Michael Parvin. So I was trying to find out where his image went, and so here it is.
This is great. I love this. So just seeing the perspective, the reflection of this, it's seeing so many different sort of images overlapping, and in black and white, I really feel like it made a curious image. It's almost like it's experimental, chance operated. So I would imagine you would be studying the windows and reflections as you go through. So this is quite a fortunate sort of situation where the reflection worked out perfectly. So a great image. I love the movement in it, and it's quite imaginary, the elements that are in it. So thank you for participating in the show.
Thank you. I appreciate your selecting the image.
Oh, you're here. Thank you. Can
Yes,
you talk a little bit more about creating this image?
These were taken about a year ago when I visited a friend in North Carolina, a small town, and we were just walking around. It was sort of a late in the day, and you could see the reflections in the windows of what was on the outside. And I was just noticing how, like, the trees and the walk symbol and other things played into the image, especially how the lights curve around and the walk symbol is at the end of that. And I was very intrigued by it. So I walked around all evening taking pictures. Some of them work, some of them don't. It's just the way the things layer with each other. And this was one of my favorites. So thank you.
It's fascinating happenstance. Thank you for sharing it. It's beautiful.
Great. Thank you, Michael. And it's like, I had to go find it. I'm like, I don't know what I did with it. All right. So back to the slideshow. All right. And then we have Reed Childers, and I do not think Reed has joined us.
Yeah, I love this image. the object, I feel like it's something that's antique. For air, it's something that I didn't really recognize when I first saw it. So I just love the balance in it and the color. So really, thank you, Reed, for participating in the show and submitting this in the exhibition. I love the image.
All right. And then we have this one by Richard, and Richard is not here either, which is curious, but he has not joined us.
Well, the thicket, the vegetation that's growing in here creates that veil. So in this image, I don't know if you all can sort of see it, but you have to sort of look closely. It really invited me to kind of see what's beyond the veil. What is the veil? So for me, it sort of had this mysterious or dark side of tone to it, but it has the sense of beauty in it too. So I found it really quite interesting image and how he took this. So I believe this one has maybe a river that's in the distance. So I love that idea of nature growing and covering itself. And you have to, this one makes you study and move around in the picture plane quite a bit to take in all of the elements. So this one really soaked me in. So this is great image. So thank you so much, Richard, for participating in the show.
Right. And then we have this abstract by Rick Banks, and Rick is not here either.
So the abstract nature of it, I'm not quite sure what the object is, but I like that I'm not quite, I don't understand what they are. I love that it's the shadows and the play. I love, it creates this sense of space and elements. So great image. I love the playfulness in it too, but the abstract nature of it, to me also felt like it was painterly. So thank you for sharing this photograph.
Thank you.
Oh no, you are here, Rick.
I'm here.
Oh, okay. You're hiding out. Your name is not correct on your Zoom.
It's got my government name, not my nickname. So.
Rick, do you want to share a little bit about the image and the work?
Sure. This image, as well as some others that I had been working on, came about, I don't want to say as a direct result of COVID, because I was doing a lot of this stuff before, but when I found myself being at home and not being able to get out and shoot, I started to try to find objects within my home that I could photograph and do some different things with, and I've been kind of drawn to the light, line, and shadow play of some abstracts that I've seen before. And I started working with some blocks that I have here in my house, and just doing some experimentation with light and shadow. And this particular piece was just one of many. I call them transitory sculptures actually, because they would change. I would set them up one way, light them different ways, and then move the blocks about. So that's the transitory nature of it. But I was pleased with the results. Some were taken from a wider view, so you got to see the finished edges and that type of thing. But some of the others were tight shots like this, where you don't see where it begins and ends, and just kind of work with the whole abstract theme a little bit better to me. But again, I had so many frames that it just started going, and I liked it, didn't know where it was taking me, so I just kind of rolled with it,
Great.
Thank you, Rick.
All right. Thank you, Rick. All right. I just wanted to let everybody know we're getting close to the end, but it looks like we are going to run over maybe about 15 minutes. So I hope you will continue to join with us. Looks like we'll probably be kind of wrapping up around a little after 9. So hopefully you all continue to stay, because there's some really great work at the end here as well. And then we have Robert Rausch, and I do not think Robert has joined us this evening.
Okay. Well, I love this image, Robert. Its sense of movement, the pose that's in here, and it made me think about the figure and their place setting, like where are they? So for some reason, this image just kind of struck me, had that curiosity of what's happening and the interaction of this, what's happening behind the photographer also. Is this an event that's taking place? So it drew a lot of interest for me. So thank you very much, Robert.
Great. All right. And then we have, oh, there's Michael's. I don't know like how it got there, but all right. Okay. And then we have 4 images from Ron Sherman, and Ron Sherman was with us. You are still here. All right. So we have 4 images from Ron.
Ron, thank you so much for participating in the show. These images are just so powerful. They're striking. They capture the figure. There's so much that's behind these and the history of it. And I think they're so timely in what's happening right now in America with social justice, racial justice, these icons that you're capturing in history. So I was quite impressed. The images are powerful, but I feel like they're quite unique in portraying these historical figures as well. So I'd love for you to share a little bit more about these images.
You're muted, Ron.
Mute my auto. All right.
Now we hear you.
All right, sorry. Interesting time in my life because I had just moved to Atlanta in '71 and started working for the national magazines like Newsweek and Time and Sports, Inside Sports and Business Week. So I was just doing editorial photography for them. Also, I had a New York photo agency at the time, so I covered anything and everything that I could cover at the time. And the Hank Aaron picture I put on was different from my other Hank Aaron picture of the 2 kids coming around second base. And that picture went unrecognized for credit for about 40 years because I had shot that for UPI, and the only thing on that photo that got transmitted out was initials. But it's pictures that were shot as editorial photojournalism and used in numerous magazines around the world over the time span. And I just felt like these 4, there was people who achieved achievement, and they all did one way or the other. So it was I almost missed those days because I went into other photography later on in corporate and stock photography. But that was my upbringing was always started out as a newspaper photographer in high school and college, and I love being published. So I still don't mind seeing my work published. And thank you, Francis and Judy, for selecting these photos.
Certainly. Yeah, thank you for participating in the show and sharing. I really find it's timely, great, powerful images, and I'd love to see more of your work. I'm looking forward to seeing this in person when I'm in Atlanta, I believe next month. But I thank you again. Really, really powerful photographs.
Thank you. I'll send you my email or my website that has a few thousand more on there.
I would love that.
Okay. Great. Thanks, Ron.
You're welcome. Thank you.
And then we have Ronnie Mcclure, and Ronnie is here.
Yes. Hello.
Hi.
Hey, Ronnie. I love this image. It's almost it's sort of the distance. I know it's from the landscape, but it almost feels like it could be a painting of some kind. The detail of it that you capture is quite impressive. Can you share some more information about this work?
Yes, I come to you from 2 devices. One, my audio is Ron Mcclure, and my face or video is Ronnie. That's my phone because I don't do those webcam things. These pictures that I've done are from on high, from a commercial jetliner 5-6 miles up in the air through this distorted port window. It's just simply where I gather my raw material, and the work is done on the computer. And I'm interested in the mark making by humans on the landscape. I am not interested in environmental issues, what people are doing to the earth or things like that. But I am interested in humankind's relationship to nature and more of a sense of how, when you're way up in the air, you get such a sense of the vastness of this planet of Earth and how insignificant we are. And yet you can see these little marks and things that we have done there on the landscape. And I don't, I mean, besides Photoshop and Lightroom, I use a program called Corel Painter. So I do go in and I manipulate tones and values and colors, and I will paint and draw. And I like, basic art things like light, line, shape, texture, space, those kinds of things. And I've done quite a few pieces like this, but haven't been up in the air in quite some time now.
Yeah, the distance, it's just I feel like we don't get an opportunity to see perspective at this level looking down. And I think that seeing nature at that distance, that view of a plane, I feel like is quite unique. And then, and this image for me was quite uncommon. I felt like it was quite beautiful to see the landscape in this way. Yes, you see how it's been altered by change, but by man. But just seeing how nature is from above, from that perspective, was quite capturing for me. So thank you for sharing this image.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Great. Thanks, Ron. It's good to see your work here. Sam Unger is next, and Sam is here.
Yeah, hi, and thank you very much
Hi.
for including me in this exhibit. This is kind of a semi-street photograph. I'm basically a
Sam, I'm
traveler.
having a little hard time hearing you. I don't know if you're not close to your mic or what's going on.
I'm sorry, can you hear me better?
A little bit.
Okay. I'm basically a travel and nature photographer, and this is a semi-street image taken in sort of a redeveloping area of Athens called the Plaka, where people have come in and started new types of little shops. And I was struck by the play of light and depth through this little cafe with a couple of different seating areas and a bar in the back. I'm always struck by the combination of mystery and place, trying to get to a little bit of the culture of any place that I'm in or visiting, and similarly with landscape. So it's a bit meditative, a bit mysterious, and a little perhaps off kilter in terms of how the image is constructed, but that's part of the mystery for me. So thanks very much for including me.
Certainly. I love the element of it being instantaneous. I had that feeling of this and the other works that I saw, sort of seeing stairwells going off into the distance. But it's when you travel through a city, you look for things that capture you, and sometimes they're out of your reach. So I kind of had that sense when I saw this image. Maybe you were passing by and you noticed something maybe in the distance within the building that was curious. And that's what I loved about that, about this photograph. Thank you for entering it in.
Thank you very much.
Great. Thanks, Sam. And Scott Jolliffe. And Scott's here.
Hello.
Hi.
Scott, I love the balance of the image. It's simple subject matter, but I feel like the lines and the colors, the placement, the composition of it is really thought out and intentional. Just love this image. So can you share a little bit more about this?
Thank you very much. It's literally just something that I saw one day as I was parking my car, which is hence the title. That's just sort of how I see the way I see things. The series that I entered was accidental art. These accidental still lifes that I just sort of see as I'm going about my day. This particular time was an auto parts store. Sometimes it's at work. It's not like I'm going out looking for these things. I just notice them. And I just sort of like to put things together in order visually. Just feels good.
It's well done. Thank you for this image.
Appreciate it.
Great, thank you.
Thanks, Judy.
Okay, and Stephen B. Morton. And Stephen, you are here. Okay, great.
Yay. Yes, I am. Thank you very much. You hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, thanks. I just, sorry I'm late. I had an assignment and I just basically drove back into town. So glad to be here. Thank you very much.
I love this image. The other works in the series are really abstract. When I saw the work, I wasn't quite sure what the subject matter was. And then this one defined it. But it's mysterious in a way still, but the deterioration from the water hitting the sides of the ship is just so beautiful to me. And the way that this has that abstract quality, but then has enough element to give you a little bit of a clue of what the subject matter is, I thought was compelling as well. Did you want to share a little bit about this photograph?
Yeah, I would love to. For the last 40 years, I've been a photojournalist, and abstracts were the farthest from my reality in photography. To find things, this started happening. I started seeing these images in 2014, 2013. And it was just, I never really thought much of kind of pushing the button on them because they were so far from my reality as a photographer. We always tried to cover truth and tell stories and to find things where, the way the light interacts with the decay of these vessels just struck me as it was super powerful to see it. And it really matters in what angle you take and what angle the ship is and where the sun is setting during that day. Today is different from 3 weeks ago. And it was just, like I said, it's so different from what I typically do for a living. And so to have this, accepted and selected by you guys is hugely important for me because this is just a new career for me, I suppose, or a new branch of the same career. So I really appreciate it. Thank you for including me.
It's a great photograph. Thank you so much.
Great, thanks, Stephen. All right, and then we have Sue Bailey, and I don't think Sue has joined us. I thought she was here earlier, but she has these 2 images in the exhibition.
Yes, the light in this is unusual. So, and then the perspective, what's in focus and what's not, I found it quite magical. It really kind of moved your eye along. It's just beautifully well done. I feel like the treatment of the way the photograph is taken, the color, the consistency in it, it creates a great image, these 2. So I look forward to seeing these in person. Thank you, Sue.
Yeah, very nice. And then we have Psy Richards, and I'm not sure if Psy is here with us or not. I don't think so. Okay.
motion. Yeah, I love the lines in this. It's really just kind of playful. So I was curious to learn more about how these were created, controlling the light. So it's a great image. I really enjoy seeing these sort of light captures where for me, they capture time in a way that, and I like that chance operation. I think it's kind of the underlying thread in a lot of pieces that I selected in the show. So I like this element in the exhibition. So thank you, Psy, for participating.
Great. And then we have Todd Stewart. And Todd is here, was here, is here.
I'm here.
All right, fabulous.
Todd, I'm curious about the treatment here. Like what the image is beautiful. You see the tree in the center, and then you see how the light is kind of expands up, and then the treatment of the rest of the forest, the vegetation. So it's quite curious. It's almost like you're painting with your photograph at the same time. I love these elements. So I was quite curious to learn more how you created this.
Sure, Francis. Thank you for including me. I've been working on a series of photographs, images, where I take multiple images from a geography and layer them together to create a new reality. So what I find is sometimes I'll take a picture, and when I look at it, when I get back to my house and download it, that it doesn't really capture the emotion or the feeling that I had when I took the picture. So I looked at layering multiple images together and trying to create that emotion that I felt when I took the original image. So this is one of those images in a series that I think encapsulates the way I feel when I take an image. So yeah, I think it yeah. So that I think that is the best explanation I can make. I just try to create an image that is more about what I feel than what I saw.
Thank you for that, Todd. It's a great piece.
Thank you.
Then we have this by Todd Suttles, and I don't believe this Todd has joined us this evening.
I'm here under a different name.
Oh, well, hello there then.
Thank you. Thanks, Francis. Well, this has been a great
Hiding out.
Yeah, sorry. I'm under my dad's name.
Thank you for this image, Tom. I love this the emotional quality of it. I can't see the titles in my view, but I seem to recall this might have been in France. It might have been in Paris, if I'm correct. And for me, for the rest of the exhibition, it felt like it fit well because a lot of the imagery, emotions that were portrayed in the figures that in the exhibition, it needed to balance out. And I love that emotional quality that I had here, that it was a little bit more edgy. You're wondering what's happening with this and where they are. Maybe they're traveling. I think the title that you had in it made me sort of led me to believe that there might be some travel involved. So if you can talk a little bit more about the piece.
Sure.
I'd love to hear it.
It was in Photo Paris last year is where I shot this. And this is part of a work of a series of mine called Evidence of Personality and Identity. And I like to create odd images that kind of stop the viewer and make you wonder what's going on. It's kind of like I'm transitioning from working as a hairstylist since 2010 into more photography. And now with COVID, it looks like the door's been shut. But I'm intrigued with personality, and working as a stylist, when I did a good, successful job doing that, I would be able to identify with the client and then create an image and express the personality for them. And I found in my photography that I'm running around kind of like a personality detective, looking for scenes and evidence of mostly quirky. This one is more of a personality of a person, but a lot of my images are quirky little odd images where someone's personality has made a very definite, strong statement on the scene, and it strikes me, and then I like to wonder what reality is and what they're trying to say and what the person was like. And then when I do that, I kind of get to, by default, discover some of the things that I project onto the image, my assumptions and preconceptions and so forth and so on. So anyway, this is just part of that. The boy was, what was actually happening in the image is he was standing in line and bored to tears. But it's so ambiguous that you don't really know. It could be anything. And that's why I really like, why I felt it worked.
That's great. Thank you for sharing.
Great. Thanks, Todd. And I'm going to miss traveling with everyone to Photo Paris this year. So Tom Meese, and Tom is here.
Tom, this is a wonderful image. I love how it breaks the picture plane up. It's almost like there's multiple photographs together. And then again, like sort of this painterly style approach to it, seeing your subjects through a veil, seeing it through paint and other things that just you happenstance and collected in the photograph. To me, it really is a strong photograph. I love that layering and the effect that happens here. Can you share some more about how you took this image?
Well, Tom is on our list, but I don't know where he went.
I found him, but he doesn't seem to unmute, so maybe he's not there.
It's possible. So, all right.
Thank you, Tom. It's a great image.
Tracy Bosworth Page, and Tracy is here.
Beautiful image. The figure that you portrayed here, I think it's the light in it. It's really capturing. For me, it made me sort of think about what is happening in the image. What is she thinking about? Where is she? So it pulled me in further into it. And I'm trying to make explanation for my selection, and maybe I should do that because simply I just thought the image is just so beautiful. I thought it was just so well done, and maybe I should just leave it there. Can you share more information about this image?
Thank you very much. I'm a new member of APG, first time entrant to this. I am an editorial portrait photographer, and I've been playing with different concepts. And when George Floyd's death happened, it really struck me that we were starting our most recent venture into a civil rights movement, kind of a resurgence of the civil rights movement. And I felt very drawn to start doing some of my personal work with some of my African-American clients. And I picked this dress up out of my studio, and I knew that this was the client to put in it. She's just so graceful and poised, and I felt like she deserved to be shown like this. She's a young actress. I really was playing with the juxtaposition of the light and the dark, between the light and the dark, between her and the background, and the triangular shapes she was making, the angles. I wanted to really kind of show the depth and the angle of her structure. Also, I liked that she was not facing the camera. As an editorial portrait photographer, most of my images are straight on into the camera, and this wasn't. And I liked the emotion not being into the plane of my camera. And just really enjoyed, it's become the beginning of a series, and I hope it has some impact.
It's a wonderful photograph.
Thank
you for sharing that.
Great. Tracy, thanks for joining APG, and I really appreciate seeing your photograph as well. This is lovely. And we have three last images and two last speakers, and Warren Simons. And Warren was here. Warren is here. All right, great.
This was fun. I just thought that, just the subject, the item, the ice cream melting in the street, it just kind of, happenstance. I don't know if it was intentional to create that, but I love seeing the colors sort of bleed out from it melting away. Sort of just this really simple subject. So fun subject matter, but in a way, I felt that the color in it, the movement of it, kind of captured me too. So can you share a little bit more about what you're thinking creating this image?
Sure. This was a moment of total serendipity, which is my preferred method for working. I just happened to be coming out onto the street from my job, and it was a blazing hot day, and there it was. It's the way I sort of prefer to work, which is to let the visual surprises find me. And I was paying attention and saw it, and there it is.
Excellent. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Warren. And then we have this image by William Fenn and another person from Montgomery. And William, I do not think is with us.
Yeah, the figure that's in the person, it creates a story, like what's happening here, who we're seeing walking by. I liked the elements in it struck me too, just where the shadow is, where the figure is, the door that's behind them. I just felt like compositionally it was quite an attractive piece, and well done. So thank you for participating in the exhibition.
Wonderful. And our very last image of this evening is by Zoltan Gerlecki. And Zoltan is with us.
Yes,
hello.
I am.
Hey, Zoltan, thank you.
Hi, everybody. Good evening. And thank you to accept my work. And really nice to meet you, Francis. So this is one of the image out of the work I've been doing. Each image, especially this one as well, it took me 4 months to create. Well, in addition to photography, I use high resolution scans to achieve extreme detail. I use photography as a base, but in the end, I arrive at an image that nobody could actually shoot as a photograph. I see a great mix of how you put together. I can imagine to doing 48. My God, artists will work, choosing in one exhibition in a small place. It's insane. So I'm really, really happy. I'm very thank you for this. And I think, Francis, to be honest with you, first time I meet you, I like you. I think you're really good. I'm the last one anyway. And there's not much to say. This, is from the golden age of the Dutch painting from the 17th centuries. And I'm fascinated about this. And I want everything so perfect, so balanced, almost kind of flat. Almost everything is too much perfect. But again, thank you so much. This is a great opportunity anyway. And I think you choose very good work. And I think you did a very good collection. And congratulations. Thank you.
Thank you, Zoltan. Thank you very much. I appreciate all those comments. And yeah, I just want to comment on your work in particular. You had submitted quite a good number of works in the show, and I could tell right away that the process must be very time-consuming and arduous and very involved. Seeing that objects in the photograph where everything is in detail and focus, I was quite curious to ask you how you put this together, and knowing that it takes months to put together one image. That's quite a lot of impressive work that you put together in these photographs. And I really think it comes out. This is an exquisite photograph, just the detailing in it, the color, and the precision in it. So it's really well done. I greatly appreciate that you participated in the show. And Judy, I know we're at the end. I wanted to say thank you so much for allowing me to ask so many questions with the group. I hope I did not put it too far over, but I really enjoyed hearing from the artists, and it's quite impressive how many had participated today. I see that a lot of folks put comments in the chat tool, so I hope that can be saved. I'd love to read it more, and I'd love to reach out and connect more with the artists as well.
Yes, great. Francis, thank you so much. I greatly appreciate all of your insight and your information into how you picked the work, and also all of the wonderful information from the artists telling us more about their projects and how they created it has really been really fantastic. And thank you all for bearing with us. We only went over by a little bit, so it's not so bad, but we did have quite a few artists and quite a lot of work in the exhibition. And if anybody has any questions, you are welcome to kind of ask a few. We can hang out for a little bit more if anybody has any questions for any of the artists who are still here, or for Francis, or for myself. Anything?
I just want to say thank you again very much for doing this. I apologize that I was in a dark parking lot and it was noisy, so I apologize again. But thank you. It looks phenomenal, and I enjoyed seeing everyone's work as I was hanging it. I hope everyone gets a chance to come see it in person. Judy did a phenomenal job. So thank you.
So I have a question for Francis. Francis, this is a very interesting show, a really great mix of different styles. So what makes a great photograph for you?
For me, I feel like I look at different things. So the artist's approach to a photograph is going to be different depending on what they're taking. So it could be, it's a very detailed process. It could be something that's instantaneous, that's in the moment. It could be something that's trying to speak about history or about information or about data. So I feel like the approach is very different. So I'm always careful to not to apply something that is standard across the board. I feel like for me, the piece has to capture the viewer. So when I see it initially, I feel like something about it has to really hold you and be there, whether it's finished, whether it's innovative, any of those elements. And then for this show in particular, not every piece of artwork needs to have multiple layers, but this exhibition, I went through it and read the artist statements. I tried to learn a little bit more. And so I really studied everybody's work. And if that additional layer, if the artist took the step of providing that and that portrayed in their work, I felt like that was of great value as well. So I hope that's a kind of a complex answer or question, excuse me. So I hope that answers it. But those are the things that work well for me. That's what I look for in a piece of art, in a piece of photography for this particular exhibition.
Definitely answers it. Thank you, Francis.
Sure.
Francis, when you get to town, can you let us know? Will you have enough time to talk to some of the artists while you're in town, while you're at the gallery?
I would love to.
Yeah, we'll have an open house at the gallery, and Francis will join us for at least some of the time that day, if not, however long he wants to hang out. And I will definitely share that with everybody and invite and let you know when that is planned for. So right now I'm still working on the exact information.
So thank you, Judith. It's a wonderful show. Thank you for all your work, and thank you, Francis, for your work.
Certainly, thank you.
Any other questions? Anybody?
This was a great experience, just seeing everybody's work and listening to what people had to say about their work. I would never have seen the show, and it was wonderful. Thank you. It was really well done.
Thanks, Bremner. And this is kind of what I'm calling the silver lining to our COVID events, is people like, like you and some of the other artists. I don't know if Jeremy is still here. He's from Denver, the Colorado area. And, you all probably would not have come in for the show and been able to talk to the other artists and learn more about their work. So this, being able to do this and have people join in from everywhere has been a plus. Okay.
And thank you again for everything that you guys did. The amount of time and effort was terrific, and the thoughtfulness of everybody here and the talent that's here is terrific. And I think just a thought for you, Judith, that this kind of event via Zoom for so many artists from different geographies is a great opportunity. As you said, it's a great opportunity to be more efficient and to cost less, but to get a lot of conversation going, both with the show organizers and with the artists. It's terrific. Yeah. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. Anyone else?
Yeah, I would just second that, this is a silver lining that we get to hear from artists and get to hear them talk about their work. Get to hear Francis talk about our work, which, in a typical or pre-COVID time, maybe we wouldn't get to hear all these perspectives. So yeah. I think this is a really good way to understand why we're doing the work we're doing.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, I had a question for Francis about how is he thinking about the show as a collective display of tendencies, of images? Are there some unifying ideas or criteria that he uses in order to select some of the images and put them together?
Yeah, this is a great question. I feel like this type of show where there's no theme, it kind of makes the connection on its own. So I went through the entire exhibition and I began to think at the end when I finished the selection, are there elements that need to be added in that's included in there? So I wanted to make sure I cultivated everything that was in the submissions as possible in the show to think about it holistically. But it was a balance. I can't say that it was I can't say that I put together the show to make a show. I put together the show, some of that as an element of putting together the exhibition, but also it was about making sure that I'm selecting works that represent the artist in a powerful way as well. So many of the submissions, there were multiple submissions. And when I knew an artist, I wanted them in the exhibition, I wanted to select the piece from what they submitted that I felt like was the strongest representation from my perspective. And looking at many avenues, angles at that, like I mentioned earlier, how I made that selection. So it was quite a challenge, but I love the challenge in it, and I love the diversity of the approach of photography. For me, this really expanded what photography can be, and there was a lot of innovative approaches to it. So there were very, I think, experienced, established photographers in it. And then I also feel like there was a lot of emerging artists with great new ideas that they brought to the submissions in the exhibition. And I feel like this type of show, because it's so large, and again, everybody that submitted work, I looked at it very closely. So I greatly appreciate everyone's participation. Even if you're in the show or you did not make it in the show, there was really strong work. I feel like this exhibition, I'm looking forward to seeing it in person, particularly because it continues on for what you were just asking me to learn about what are the connections. Because when you see works next to each other, when you see them grouped together, then they speak differently. They have a dialogue, and then there's more conversation that goes from there. And hopefully for the artist, it gives them more ideas. Zoltan, which I really appreciated, invited a collaboration. And I think having a group show like this, having that opportunity to connect further, whether it's ideas that you see from seeing the exhibition or the experience from seeing the show itself, or connecting and working together. I think there's a lot of dynamics that happen with these large group shows. So I really am fortunate that I'm part of this process, and I hope I did it well for you.
Okay.
You did a great job, Francis. And I just wanted to let you all know that the way we saw the work this evening is a little bit, or actually a lot different than the way the work is in the gallery, because in the gallery, the works that kind of speak to each other, even though they're from different artists, are paired together, where a lot of the landscapes and the environmental works are all consolidated together, and you get a real feeling for that. The same way with the works that include people and dynamics of that. So there's definitely a different feel in the gallery per se than online, but you know, and it's just a different kind of environment. But some of the works do play very nicely, one artist next to another artist, and it really makes some really lovely pairings and creates another story as well.
Judy, this is Tracy. I just wanted to say on the point you just made that I do appreciate that, because as I was looking through the pieces, I wasn't seeing how mine fit in until right before mine came up. It seemed like all of a sudden there were more emotive black and white portraits, and then I could see how I fit in. So I'm looking forward to seeing it hanging in the gallery just for that reason, to kind of see the environment that I did fit into.
Yeah, and I don't know, I'm going to scroll back just really quickly and pull up those images, because I do have a couple install shots, so this might help some of you see what, let me just share again for a brief second.
And Francis, I appreciated that your choices were so that there was so much variety to give some of us a shot to be in different shows.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of like the idea of not having a theme, but being work driven.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wanted to be careful about things like that. I don't want the show to be too driven in the selection to try to make a particular show if an artist's work is really strong. If it doesn't fit that, if I'm really driving down trying to create a particular type of show, but then an artist's work is really strong, does it mean that it justifies the work not being in the show? So it's, again, an earlier question, it's a difficult balance, but I wanted to make sure that I was paying attention to both very closely.
Can I ask a quick question?
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
Hi, this is Leslie. I lost my connection on the other. We have two members here in the same household. Where do we purchase people's prints? How do we get them? We haven't found that online for the different exhibitions. How do we purchase prints?
If you go to our website. Oh, I don't know why this is echoing. All right, that's better. Somehow I was echoing through someone else's. If you go to our website and go to the viewing rooms, on each of the galleries, there's a caption with the artist's name and the title and the prices on the work. And then if you just email me, which is gallery@atlantaphotography.org, I can facilitate any of the purchases and we can work it out that way. So right now we don't have a seamless system. That will be coming online probably sometime in 2021. I hope. But right now it's if you just email us about a piece of work that's in one of the viewing galleries, we are happy to help you figure it out.
Great. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. Thank you. You're very welcome. Thank you. Anyone else? No? All right, I'm just going to say thank you all so much for joining us. This is a very different experience than the social event in the gallery, but I think it's just as valuable and just as much fun. And I'm so glad to be here with everyone. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for participating in the exhibition. The viewing room is live now with everyone's images in it on the website. So if you have friends, acquaintances who haven't joined us this evening, or even yourself, if you want to go back and review the work, it's all in the gallery online and you can check it out. If you have any additional questions, please let me know. Francis, thank you so much. This was absolutely wonderful.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Yeah, and we look forward to seeing you in Atlanta very soon.
I'm looking forward to it.
All right. Thanks, everyone. Have a nice night. Have a wonderful
Thank you.
weekend.
Good night, Judy. Thank you, Francis. Thank you. Good night.